Hey friends, this is Dolynny TV. Glad to have you aboard here this evening as we get set up for what will be a quieter day tomorrow, I think, based on seeing Chris Knobloch meet with the media for 10 minutes today. It's Tuesday. We don't play till Thursday against the Boston Bruins, who, they've had an interesting season, haven't they? Right? I think when you fire that head coach of theirs that they had before the new guy, that's always going to be an interesting move, especially when you have the record he did. So, Jim Montgomery no longer head coach of the Boston Bruins, and the Oilers get a new look at a new team. What is going to be interesting, though, is what happens with the lineup against the Bruins on Thursday. There's a couple potential moving targets to really try and figure out Thursday's lineup. Zach Hyman, he don't look too good right now, but he should be fine to play hockey on Thursday. That is at least the coach's update today. And then Victor Arvidsson. I think, if I'm not mistaken, and I was paying full attention to what Chris Knobloch was saying today, was the best skater at practice today. I think, at least, correct me if I'm wrong. If I heard that line wrong, I could have. Not saying I've got that nailed down. I should go back and double check, but I really don't care to at this point. It's already 8:14 as we try to get the video recorded. So what I'll tell you about that is Victor Arvidsson is a likely possibility for the lineup on Thursday as well. Now, also mentioned in Chris Knobloch's meeting with the media today was the fact that they're, again, thinking about maybe, possibly, using Matthias Janmark as a center at times this season. So when you start putting all three of those factors together, that Hyman should be good to go, Victor Arvidsson's a likely possibility at this point. I mean, amazing the guy actually still exists, because I thought he just disappeared. We've seen some Oilers possibly do that over the years, it feels like. But we go for the Oilers lineup against Boston. Now, this is the least chaos. This is the least pandemonium that's going to play out within the Oilers media circus that can be, simply because what Chris Knobloch also mentioned in his interview today was saying that Victor Arvidsson would be worked back into the lineup as a guy that'll be in the bottom six, not as a demotion, but just simply the Oilers' schedule is about to get hectic here over the next few days, and the coach wants to ease an important key piece of the lineup back in so as the Oilers can kind of get things going, if that makes sense. So you go Nuge, McDavid, Hyman, Podkolzin, Draisaitl, Kapanen, simply because if you listen to that interview as well, my goodness, there's a lot of good nuggets of information from Chris Knobloch today in that interview. You got to go check it out. That was well worth 10 minutes of my time today, I'll tell you that much. Is the Oilers' top two lines, friends, if you aren't aware, have been absolutely running amok across the NHL against almost every opponent they face, right? 2 games against Vegas. Right, you look at one where they were running amok and got nothing for it, and then they ran amok and got lots for it. And then as well, you kind of followed that up with an even more chaotic game against the Florida Panthers. So the Oilers players have been rising to the occasion steadily over, Chris Knobloch said, the past 6-7 weeks, but I'd say especially over the past 3 to 4, the Oilers have been really getting going here, and that's been led by the production out of the top 6, and then following with the bottom, or the third line, the top 9, starting to really piece it together here. The fourth line still is, for most of the year, they have been getting caved in at least a shift or two every period or so, it seems. So I don't have the analytics to back that up, but I think the eye test will anyway. So there you have it. That's the lineup, right? Victor Arvidsson on the fourth line. Really not much changes. You're pretty okay with that. Now we go to the chaos theory here, where why did they mention Matthias Janmark possibly playing center? Well, here's how you do it, right? You don't want to bump Corey Perry out of the lineup, who's actually been a key piece of that fourth line. He's about the only guy on that fourth line outside of Jeff Skinner who floats around the lineup and picks up points sporadically whenever he, I don't know, shoots a puck or shoots and gets a rebound assist. I don't know. Jeff Skinner's had a weird year for as many points as he has, and as invisible at times as he can be, floating around the top 3 lines, or the bottom 3 lines of the Edmonton Oilers roster. So Again, that's no knock on Jeff Skinner. We knew what we were getting there with him, and I'm glad to have him as he's been a key piece of putting up some big goals for us this year. But you look at the more chaos theory here, it keeps Jeff Skinner in, keeps Corey Perry in, puts Matthias Janmark on the fourth line, and then Victor Arvidsson goes to the second line, or third line, sorry, I can't even communicate today. What am I trying to do? But Arvidsson goes to the third line, and you run two righties alongside Adam Henrique. And what do you think there is, again, it achieves Coach Knobloch saying, look, we're going to keep him in that bottom six role just to ease him back in. But what it also achieves is another line from Chris Knobloch's interview today, which is just simply you balance the fourth and third line. And basically the whole goal here for the Oilers as they get towards Christmas, as they get towards the new year, as they get closer to Evander Kane's return, is really weighing ice time, rewarding players for good performance, but also weighing that the third and fourth line can be two third lines or it can be two fourth lines. It's up to the players to decide that. But basically, I think the Oilers have the pieces. Jeff Skinner, Victor Arvidsson, Matthias Janmark, Adam Henrique, Connor Brown, Corey Perry in this scheme. But also, Noah Philp works in possibly. You think you work about a guy. There's tons of possibilities here that the Oilers very well could be running 1A, and then obviously 3 and 3A or 3B, whatever you want to say, right? I think clearly Janmark, Adam Henrique, Connor Brown is the playoff third line we all want to see go out there and grind our way to a Stanley Cup. But bear with me here. First off, we got to get there, and that's where things are subject to change. And that's where I think it's only a matter of time that we do. I know Jeff Skinner's got no trade clauses, no movement clauses, all that stuff. But I think very much so the Oilers are going to try and at least explore a way to get Jeff Skinner out of town. Just from the simple standpoint of it makes sense. That's my whole argument. It just makes sense to do. And why is that? Because if you move out Jeff Skinner, bring in Evander Kane, you're changing left wing for left wing. But even if Evander Kane's at 50% of what he used to be before the injuries, and he was playing at 20% of what he used to be before the injuries, he's a very effective player in a middle six role for the Edmonton Oilers. So what moving of Jeff Skinner does, putting Evander Kane in his place, frees up $3 million of cap space and really adds for you to allow an addition of a right shot centerman that could possibly play the third line or equal time with the third line. And then as well, it allows you to have a defensive upgrade, right? If you spend $2 million on Nick Bjugstad, just saying, Nick Bjugstad could be coming back. Didn't he sign that 2-year deal in Arizona? He's playing it out in Utah. I don't know. Just saying, there's things there where I, again, wouldn't mind seeing Nick Bjugstad back in another Oilers playoff run. Just throwing that out there for you. But more cap space for the Oilers defense as well, right? Obviously, no matter what forward you get here at the deadline or prior to the deadline, your target is defense. And the Oilers have multiple ways to achieve that. We've talked about a lot of options this year. I don't care to talk about the options right now because I can barely talk. But you get where we're going is Jeff Skinner out, Evander Kane in, minus $3 million, plus this and that allows for the Oilers to do a lot of things, especially if the Oilers minus Jeff Skinner, bring in Evander Kane, wait 3 weeks, accumulate cap space, bang, done and dusted. Don't even get me started on trying to explain that to you tonight. So the Oilers lines in March. This is where, like I said, that middle six is a really finite, kind of troublesome thing to point down because Nuge, McDavid, Hyman is quote-unquote the top line always, right? I think we know that for the Oilers, that will always be the default top line. Now, Kane, Draisaitl, Kapanen. What do I like? Why did I put Kane there instead of Podkolzin? I like that Kane's a big, heavy presence. And obviously, you've got the work mentality of Kapanen. You've got Draisaitl. I know people want to make a big thing about Draisaitl and Kane last year. I don't care. I think the biggest thing is Kane just needed to make a decision. He's finally made it. He's coming back healthy. And a healthy Kane alongside Draisaitl sounds like goals. That's all it sounds like to me. So again, I think you add in Kapanen, and there's a lot to like about a second line with those talents on there. That then allows you to have Podkolzin, Philp, who still waiting in the wings here for his second opportunity with the Oilers, but I think based on how things have gone in Bakersfield this year, a new guy will likely take that third line, fourth line role from Derek Ryan and Noah Philp come trade deadline time. Like I said, in all things being equal, I'd love to see Nick Bjugstad back in that role. That would be fantastic for the Oilers if they could get him back, especially this year, the year that it's all supposed to come together. And then Victor Arvidsson on the right side. I mean, again, you think about Bjugstad, you think about Podkolzin, you think about Arvidsson being able to finish and do what he does. I think that'd be a very effective top 9 line for the Oilers in the playoffs. And then that leaves together, right? See, I'm not stupid. It leaves together Yanni, Rico, and Brown to absolutely run amok on the penalty kill, run amok on 5-on-5 on an unsuspecting team. And really the biggest thing that's going to happen this year in the playoffs, unlike the past 2-3 years, is the Oilers' third and fourth lines, bear with me here, are going to have to carry the Oilers, not because McDavid and Draisaitl can't, but because they've earned the right to carry the Oilers through the first and second round. That doesn't mean Draisaitl and McDavid have to carry them to the cup. I just simply mean you see past 3 years, Draisaitl and McDavid, get a little shook up sometime in the second round, it feels like, or late first round. And it's just because, right, they're playing overtime, they're playing lots of minutes late in games, and they're playing in high tension moments. When you've got other guys now on this roster, you're paying other guys to be on this roster to be capable of playing those bigger minutes that, McDavid now all of a sudden has to play 48 seconds less, but because he's playing 48 seconds less a game through the first 2 rounds, he avoids injury. Same with Draisaitl. And the defense, don't even get me started. That's a whole nother conversation. But friends, I am so jacked up. That was an incredible interview to listen to from Chris Knobloch today. So many great nuggets, and pretty much these were all my talking points. This is what I wanted to hammer out. This video here, all the graphics. But Chris Knobloch just kept adding checkmark, checkmark, checkmark to everything that I was doing. And I'm like, oh, all right, let's go. So on a day where the voice still hasn't come back, I'm glad you've been able to sit here and listen to me for 12 and a half minutes. Thanks for being aboard, friends. I will catch you tomorrow as we set up the Boston Bruins on Thursday. I am up on Oda here, but before we get going too far, if you are new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button. Thanks for being aboard. I'm up on gone.